A simple nurse lodged Virgin Tech CEO's hotel room by mistake. Now she's on a romantic trip in Paris with him. She stared at him. Most men would have thrown her out immediately, called security, made a scene. But here he was fully clothed, respectful distance, offering coffee like this was perfectly normal. When was the last time someone looked at you like you were the most interesting person in the room? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. She used the wrong key card at 3 a.m. and woke up next to a billionaire who'd never touched a woman. But instead of calling security, he offered her coffee and asked a question that would change both their lives forever. Listen, have you ever been so tired you could barely see straight? When your body moves on autopilot and your brain just shuts down? Kayla Davis knew that feeling well. After pulling a brutal 14-hour shift at Manhattan General Hospital, dealing with 3 cardiac arrests and 2 emergency surgeries, she was running on nothing but muscle memory and sheer willpower. The luxury hotel elevator climbed to the 47th floor while she swayed on her feet, still wearing yesterday's scrubs. Her hair had given up hours ago, escaping its ponytail in defeated wisps. The keycard felt heavy in her trembling fingers as she stumbled down the marble hallway, counting door numbers through exhausted eyes. Room 4712. Finally, the card beeped green. She pushed inside, not bothering with lights, just kicked off her sneakers and collapsed face first onto what felt like the softest bed in existence. Heaven, Bude Heaven. Sleep claimed her instantly. But what happens when that one mistake puts you face to face with someone who sees you, really sees you, for the first time in years? 6 hours later, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows woke her gradually. This wasn't her usual wake-up call of honking traffic and thin apartment walls. This was quiet, expensive quiet. She rolled over and froze. A man sat in the chair across the room, fully dressed in dark jeans and a white button-down, watching her with curious brown eyes. Not creepy watching, not angry watching, just interested, like she was a puzzle he wanted to solve. "Good morning," he said quietly. His voice was warm, educated, with just a hint of nervousness. "I made coffee." Kayla shot upright, heart hammering. The room spun into focus. Marble floors, designer furniture, windows showcasing Manhattan like a painting. This wasn't her room. This definitely wasn't her room. "Oh my God," she breathed, scrambling to sit up properly. "I'm so sorry. I must have the key card. I worked doubles and I was so tired." The words tumbled out in a rush of mortification. He held up a gentle hand. "It's okay. Really." The front desk mixed up the cards. "You're supposed to be in 4721, not 4712. Happens more than you'd think." She stared at him. Most men would have thrown her out immediately, called security, made a scene. But here he was, fully clothed, respectful distance, offering coffee like this was perfectly normal. "You didn't." She started, then stopped, face burning. "Sleep." He shook his head quickly. "I took the couch. You looked exhausted, and I didn't want to wake you." You kept mumbling about patience and 4 drips. Something in his expression made her pause. There was loneliness there, hidden behind polite manners. When was the last time someone had shown him simple human kindness without wanting something in return? Would you have stayed for coffee? Or would fear have sent you running? "What's your name?" he asked, leaning forward slightly. "Kayla," she answered before she could stop herself. "Kayla Davis." "Landon," he replied, and something about the way he said it, like he was testing how it sounded with her name, made her stomach flutter. Landon Pierce. The name tickled something in her memory, but exhaustion made thinking difficult. He stood slowly, moving to the kitchenette, and she noticed how he moved, careful, deliberate, like he wasn't used to sharing space with another person. "I hope you don't mind," he said, pouring coffee into an expensive-looking mug. "I got you cream and sugar." Seemed like a cream and sugar kind of morning. As she reached for the door handle to leave, he spoke 3 words that stopped her cold. "Please don't go." When she turned back, his expression held something she hadn't seen directed at her in years: hope. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done? Stay for that coffee or run for the door? And be honest, when was the last time someone looked at you like you were the most interesting person in the room? Most billionaires would have called security. Instead, he made her breakfast and asked about her dreams. And that's when she realized this wasn't just any rich guy hiding in a hotel. The coffee was perfect, rich, smooth, expensive, the kind she couldn't afford on her travel nurse salary. But it wasn't the coffee that kept her there. It was the way Landon Pierce looked at her while she talked about her work, like every word mattered. "So you travel from hospital to hospital?" he asked, settling into the chair across from her. Morning light caught the sharp angles of his face, making him look younger than his expensive clothes suggested. "Wherever they need me most," Kayla nodded, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. "This month, it's Manhattan General. Last month was Detroit. Before that, Miami. That sounds lonely." The observation caught her off guard. Most people said it sounded exciting, adventurous. No one ever noticed the loneliness. "What about you?" she deflected. "What do you do when you're not rescuing strange women from hotel mix-ups?" His smile turned self-conscious. "I build things. Software mostly. AI systems for healthcare applications." Something clicked. Landon Pierce. Pierce Technologies. The reclusive tech mogul who'd just taken his company public after some kind of scandal. She'd seen his name in headlines, but never his face. He was famously private. "You're hiding," she said, not a question. He laughed, surprised. "Is it that obvious? The penthouse suite under a fake name? The way you keep checking your phone like you're expecting bad news? Yeah, it's obvious." "The press has been intense lately," he admitted. "Some business complications. I needed space to think." "What kind of complications?" For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Someone's been sabotaging my company from the inside. Stealing research, spreading false information to investors. I can't figure out who or why." Kayla studied his face. There was more to this story, but she recognized the look of someone carrying weight they couldn't share. She knew that look intimately. "You've never..." She started, then stopped. It wasn't her business. "Never what?" "Had a girlfriend. Been in a serious relationship." The words came out more direct than she'd intended. His cheeks flushed slightly. "With all that money and those looks?" she teased, echoing something she might have said. He shrugged, suddenly looking younger. "Money can't buy what matters. And I've been waiting for someone who sees me, not my bank account." The honesty in his voice made something shift in her chest. When was the last time a man had been this genuine with her? This vulnerable? Have you ever met someone who completely surprised your expectations? Someone who shattered every assumption you had about them? Drop a heart if you know that feeling. Her phone buzzed against the marble counter, shattering the moment like glass. Hospital emergency contact. She grabbed it quickly. "I have to go," she whispered, but his hand caught hers before she could stand. "Can I see you again?" The question hung between them, loaded with possibility and danger. Before she could answer, her phone rang again, a number that made her blood freeze and her hands shake. Dr. Marcus Webb, calling. The one person she'd been running from for 2 years had found her in New York. The one person she'd been hiding from for 2 years had found her in New York. And now she had to choose between running again or trusting a stranger who barely knew her name. Kayla stared at the phone screen, Marcus's name flashing like a warning. Her breathing turned shallow, rapid. The coffee mug slipped from her fingers, shattering against the marble floor. "Hey!" Landon was beside her instantly, hands steadying her shoulders. "What's wrong?" The phone stopped ringing, then immediately started again. Marcus never gave up easily. "I have to go," she whispered, moving toward the door. "I have to leave New York. Today." "Wait." Landon's voice was calm, but firm. "Who was he?" She spun around, eyes wide. "How do you? The way you're shaking. The panic in your eyes. Someone hurt you." Marcus's name flashed again. This time, Landon reached over and declined the call, his jaw setting in a way that promised consequences. "Talk to me," he said quietly. And maybe it was the gentleness in his voice, or the way he declined the call without hesitation, or maybe she was just tired of carrying this alone. But the words came pouring out. "Dr. Marcus Webb. We worked together in Atlanta. He was my supervisor, my mentor. I thought..." She swallowed hard. "I thought he cared about me. But he was married, and when I tried to end things, Her voice broke. The penthouse felt smaller suddenly. the city's noise fading as Landon's presence filled her awareness. He destroyed my reputation. Falsified reports, making it look like I'd made critical medication errors. Got me fired. Made sure no hospital in Atlanta would hire me. That's why I became a travel nurse. It was the only way to keep working. When you're running from something that hurt you, how do you know when it's safe to stop? Have you ever had someone offer to stand between you and your past? Landon's hands were gentle on her face, thumbs wiping away tears she didn't realize had fallen. "He can't hurt you," he said quietly, but his voice carried steel. "Not while I'm here." The certainty in his tone should have scared her. Instead, it made her want to believe in protection again. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He has connections everywhere. Medical boards, hospital administrators. If he wants to destroy my career completely, then we'll build you a new one." The simple confidence in his voice stopped her tears. We, like they were a team. Like her problems had become his problems just because she'd accidentally fallen asleep in his bed. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." His answer came without hesitation. "Because in 6 hours, you've been more real with me than anyone has in 6 years. Because you looked at me like I was just a person, not a bank account. Because," he paused, something vulnerable crossing his features. "Because I think I'm falling for you, and I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. Not anymore." The phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Found you, Kayla. We need to talk. Tonight." But for the first time in 2 years, she wasn't running. Share your story below. Have you ever had someone stand between you and your worst fear? He offered her a fake engagement to fool the media, but the moment she said yes, they both realized that pretending was going to be the hardest part, because the feelings were already real. Marcus's text had been followed by 3 more, each one more demanding than the last. Then came the photos. Paparazzi shots of Landon entering and leaving the hotel, accompanied by speculation about his mystery woman. "They know you're here," Kayla said, showing him the gossip blog on her phone. "Your hiding spot is blown." Landon studied the screen, his business mind clearly working through options. "Actually," he said slowly, "this might be perfect." Perfect? How is media attention perfect when you're trying to avoid media attention? He moved to the window, looking down at the street where photographers were already gathering like vultures. What if we gave them a story they'd rather focus on than corporate sabotage? What kind of story? He turned back to her, expression shifting from businessman to something more vulnerable. A love story. The reclusive CEO and the beautiful nurse who captured his heart. The words hung between them, loaded with possibility and danger. "You're talking about a fake relationship," she said carefully. "I'm talking about mutual protection. You need distance from your ex. I need the press focused on something other than my company's problems. We help each other. If someone offered you a chance to escape your problems by stepping into their world, would you take it? What would be your biggest fear about living a lie?" Kayla walked to the window, watching the photographers multiply below. Marcus would hate this, seeing her linked to someone with more power and money than he could ever dream of having. The protection alone was tempting. What would this involve exactly? Public appearances. Maybe travel together to a few business events. Nothing you're not comfortable with. He paused. "There's an investor summit in Paris next week. I was planning to skip it, but if we went together..." "Paris." The word came out breathless. "You'd have your own room, obviously. Your own space. This would be strictly business." She turned to study his face. "And after? When the heat dies down and your company problems are solved, then we go back to our separate lives. Clean break, no complications." The plan made sense. Perfect sense. Except for one problem. The way her heart raced when he looked at her like that. "How long have we been together?" she asked. "In this fake relationship?" His smile was soft. "How about this? We tell the truth. We met by accident, and everything changed. That's not pretending at all, is it?" "No," he said quietly. "It's not." From his jacket pocket, he pulled out a small velvet box. "We'll need this for appearances." The ring inside was perfect, simple, elegant, not flashy enough to scream fake, but beautiful enough to convince. As he slid it onto her finger, the fit was so perfect it made her breath catch. "So," he asked, "partners, tell me in the comments, would you take a deal like this?" What would scare you most about pretending to be in love? The photographer's flash caught them perfectly through the window. Her laughing at something he whispered, his eyes fixed on her face with unmistakable adoration. Later, seeing the photo, she'd realized the truth. They'd stopped pretending the moment it began. The private jet to Paris was supposed to be business, but somewhere over the Atlantic, pretending to be in love became the most honest thing either of them had ever done. Kayla had never been on a private jet. She'd barely been on regular planes. But watching Manhattan shrink below them, while sitting in leather seats that probably cost more than her car, she felt like she was living someone else's life. Nervous? Landon asked, settling into the seat across from her. About flying? No, about pretending to be your fiancé in front of international investors. She laughed shakily. Terrified. You'll be perfect. The confidence in his voice made something warm bloom in her chest. How can you be so sure? Because you're smart, genuine, and you don't let anyone push you around. Plus, he smiled, you've already handled the hardest part, which is making me fall for you. The words were said lightly, part of their cover story, but something in his eyes made her pulse quicken. This was dangerous territory. When did play acting start feeling like truth? Paris welcomed them with gray skies and soft rain. Their hotel suite overlooked the Eiffel Tower, all cream marble and gold accents. Kayla stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city spread out below like a fairy tale. This isn't real, she whispered. What is it? Landon appeared beside her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Any of this? The private jets, the designer clothes, the suite with a view of the Eiffel Tower. This isn't my life. Maybe it could be. She turned to look at him, searching his face for signs he was still playing a role. Don't what? Make me believe this is anything more than business. His hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb tracing her cheekbone. What if I told you I stopped thinking of this as business the moment you said yes? Have you ever been somewhere so beautiful it felt like a dream? A place where you could reinvent yourself completely? Where would you go if money wasn't an issue? The investor cocktail party was held in a ballroom that belonged in movies. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, people in clothes that cost more than most people's rent. Kayla wore a midnight blue dress Landon had insisted on buying, feeling like an imposter among the genuine aristocracy. Breathe, Landon murmured against her ear as they entered. You belong here. I'm a travel nurse from Georgia, wearing a dress that costs more than I make in a month. You're brilliant, beautiful, and you save lives for a living. You belong here more than half these people. His hand on the small of her back guided her through introductions. Pierre from Lyon, discussing medical AI applications. Elena from Barcelona, interested in their foundation plans. Marcus, no, different Marcus, this one a tech investor from Switzerland. With each conversation, Kayla found herself relaxing. These people weren't just interested in Landon's money. They genuinely wanted to hear her insights about healthcare gaps, patient advocacy, the real-world applications of their technology. You're a natural, Landon said during a quiet moment on the terrace. At what? This. Business. Holding your own with people who've never had to fight for anything. The compliment warmed her more than the wine. When he pulled her into his arms for a slow dance under the Parisian stars, she forgot they were supposed to be pretending. Landon, she whispered against his chest. Yeah, I think we're in trouble. His answer was barely audible. I think you're right. That night, as they stood in their suite looking at the one-king bed, the question hung between them like a dare. Under the pair of stars, she invited him to share more than just the bed, and discovered that some connections are so powerful they rewrite your entire understanding of intimacy. The hotel suite felt different in the moonlight, smaller somehow, more intimate. Kayla stood by the window in her silk nightgown, another gift from Landon that she'd initially refused, watching the Eiffel Tower sparkle against the dark sky. I can take the couch, Landon said quietly behind her. His voice was rough, strained. She turned to face him. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves, but hadn't moved toward the bed. A gentleman to the end, even when she could see the want in his eyes. Don't, she said simply. The word hung between them, like a bridge neither had expected to cross. Kayla, he stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. If we do this, everything changes. She reached up, fingers tracing the line of his jaw. Maybe I want everything to change. What's more intimate? Letting someone see your vulnerability or showing them your strength? Comment below with your thoughts. When his lips finally met hers, it wasn't the careful, public kisses they'd shared for the cameras. This was desperate, honest, months of pretending condensed into one moment of truth. He lifted her easily, carrying her to the bed like she weighed nothing. But it was the way he set her down, gentle, reverent, that made her heart race. "Are you sure?" He whispered against her neck. Instead of answering with words, she showed him, pulling him down to her, letting her hands map the planes of his chest through his shirt. He was beautiful, all lean muscle and careful control that she wanted to shatter. They moved together slowly, learning each other's rhythms. He touched her like she was precious, like he couldn't believe she was real. When she arched beneath him, gasping his name, his control finally cracked. "I've never," he started. "I know," she whispered back, hands threading through his hair. "Neither have I. Not like this. Never like this." The truth was devastating. She'd had relationships before, but nothing that felt like coming alive. Nothing that made her understand why people wrote songs about love. Afterward, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. The Eiffel Tower continued its light show beyond their window, but neither was watching anymore. "So what happens now?" she asked against his skin. His arms tightened around her. "Now we stop pretending this is just business. The investors, the media attention, the fake engagement. Doesn't have to be fake anymore. If you don't want it to be." She lifted her head to look at him. "Is that your way of proposing for real?" His laugh rumbled through his chest. "That's my way of saying I'm falling in love with you, and I don't want this to end when we go back to New York." The words should have terrified her. Instead, they felt like coming home. Her phone, buzzing on the nightstand, broke the moment. A text message at 2 a.m. Paris time, which meant someone in New York was working very late or very early. The message made her blood freeze. Saw the photos from Paris. "Cute couple. We still need to talk. Marcus." Even here, even in this perfect moment, he found a way to poison everything. "What is it?" Landon asked, reading her expression. She showed him the message. His jaw tightened in that way. She was learning to recognize quiet fury, carefully controlled. "He's not going to stop," she whispered. "Then we stop him first." But as they held each other in the Parisian darkness, both wondered if love would be enough to fight a man who specialized in destroying everything good in her life. She thought her past was buried in Atlanta, but Marcus had followed her to Paris with evidence that could end her nursing career and destroy the first real relationship she'd ever had. The investor breakfast was going perfectly until Kayla's phone lit up with a call from an unknown French number. She declined it twice, but when it rang a third time, Landon nodded toward the terrace. "Take it," he said quietly. "I'll handle the investors." The voice that answered her hello made her knees weak. "Hello, Kayla. Missing me yet?" Dr. Marcus Webb sounded exactly the same, smooth, confident, like he owned whatever room he was in, even from across an ocean. "How did you get this number?" "I have my ways." "Nice hotel, by the way. The Ritz really is the best Paris has to offer." Her blood turned to ice. "You're here. Flew in this morning. Amazing what first-class travel does for jet lag. We need to talk." "No, we don't." "Oh, but we do. See, I've been doing some research on your new boyfriend. Impressive company, Pierce Technologies. Very impressive stock price. Be a shame if certain information came to light about the quality of healthcare professionals he's associating with. When you're running from something that hurt you, how do you know when it's safe to stop? Have you ever had someone weaponize your past against you? What do you want, Marcus?" "Same thing I've always wanted. You. Back in Atlanta, back where you belong. Away from this billionaire fantasy you're playing." Through the terrace doors, she could see Landon charming the investors, completely unaware that her past was about to destroy everything they'd built. "I have documentation, Kayla. Every falsified report I created to get you fired, I kept copies. along with the recordings of you begging me to leave my wife, promising to do anything to keep your job, the recordings that didn't exist, the promises she'd never made. But Marcus had always been good at creating evidence when he needed it. You're lying. Am I? Because I also have some interesting photos from your time in Detroit. That patient who died from medication error, the one you swore wasn't your fault. Her hands started shaking. There had been no error. The patient had died from complications completely unrelated to her care. But Marcus had connections everywhere, including Detroit General. You son of a... Careful, darling. That temper of yours always got you in trouble. The terrace door opened behind her. Landon stepped out, took one look at her face, and immediately moved to her side. "Who is this?" he asked quietly. Marcus's laugh carried through the phone. "Ah, the boyfriend. Put me on speaker, Kayla. Let's all chat." "Hang up," Landon said simply. But Marcus was still talking. "Mr. Pierce, is it? You might want to ask your girlfriend about her track record with patient care." Very interesting reading. Landon took the phone from her trembling hands. "Dr. Webb, I presume. I've heard a lot about you. All good things, I'm sure. Actually, no. All criminal things. Harassment, falsification of medical records, abuse of authority. Should I continue?" The silence on the other end was deafening. "Here's what's going to happen," Landon continued, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "You're going to delete whatever fabricated evidence you think you have. You're going to get on a plane back to Atlanta, and you're never going to contact her again. Or what?" Landon's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "Or I'll show you what a billionaire can do when someone threatens the woman he loves." The line went dead, but they both knew this wasn't over. How did you find the strength to fight back? What would you tell someone facing their worst fear? Landon Pierce had been called ruthless in business, but Marcus was about to learn what happens when you threaten the woman who taught a tech mogul how to feel. Within hours, Landon's Parisian hotel suite had transformed into a war room. Laptops covered every surface. His legal team connected via secure video calls. Investigators already digging into Marcus Webb's life with the thoroughness that only unlimited resources could buy. Kayla sat curled in the window seat, watching him work. This was a side of Landon she'd never seen. The strategic mind that had built a tech empire, the quiet authority that commanded rooms full of powerful people. "Tell me everything," he said, settling beside her with a tablet full of information. "Start from the beginning." So she did. The mentor relationship that turned inappropriate. His promises to leave his wife. The pressure to stay quiet when she tried to end things. The systematic destruction of her reputation when she finally said no. The falsified reports, Landon said, making notes. "Do you have copies of the originals?" "I tried to fight it at the time, but Marcus had connections everywhere. Hospital administration, the nursing board, other doctors who owed him favors. That was then. This is now." His confidence should have been reassuring. But Kayla had been fighting Marcus for 2 years with nothing to show for it, but a nomadic career and constant fear. You don't understand how deep his connections go. And you don't understand how deep mine go. When someone you love is threatened, how far would you go to protect them? Have you ever seen someone's true character emerge in a crisis? The first call came from Landon's head of security. Marcus Webb had checked into the George V Hotel under his own name. Arrogant enough to use his real identity, probably expecting Kayla to come running. The second call was more interesting. Landon's private investigator had found something in Marcus's medical practice records. Billing irregularities, suspicious patient outcomes, a pattern of behavior that looked an awful lot like insurance fraud. "How fast can you compile a comprehensive report?" Landon asked. "Give me 12 hours. You have 6. By evening, they had enough evidence to end Marcus Webb's career permanently. Insurance fraud, medical malpractice, sexual harassment of at least 3 other nurses who'd been too scared to come forward. "We could destroy him," Landon said quietly, showing her the files. Kayla stared at the documents. Everything she'd dreamed of. Proof that she wasn't crazy, that she wasn't the problem, that Marcus was exactly the predator she'd known him to be. "But," she asked, hearing the hesitation in his voice, "but I want you to choose. This is your fight, your decision. I'll support whatever you want to do." The choice felt enormous. Revenge or mercy? Justice or walking away? What do you think I should do? Landon turned to face her fully. I think you should do what lets you sleep at night. What gives you back your power? The answer came easier than she'd expected. I want to stop him from hurting anyone else. His smile was proud, fierce. Then that's what we'll do. The confrontation would happen tomorrow. Tonight, they held each other close, knowing that by this time tomorrow, everything would be different. Share your thoughts on what real protection looks like. Is it revenge or justice? When the whole world called their love a lie, Landon did something that terrified her more than any threat. He told the truth, publicly, beautifully, and completely. The scandal broke at 6 a.m. Paris time. Someone had leaked Marcus's harassment of Kayla to the tech press, spinning it as a billionaire's fake girlfriend with a shady past. The headlines were brutal. Pierce's pretend romance. Nurse with history of medical malpractice. Tech mogul's convenient love story crumbles under scrutiny. Is Kayla Davis using her past to manipulate a billionaire? Kayla read them on her phone while Landon paced the hotel room, his own phone pressed to his ear in rapid-fire conversations with his PR team. We can fix this, he said, hanging up. Press conference this afternoon. We tell our version of the story. Your version, she corrected. I should go back to New York. Maybe Atlanta. Disappear until this blows over. Like hell. The force in his voice stopped her. Landon, this is going to destroy your reputation. Your company. Everything you've built. You think I care about any of that more than I care about you? You should. He crossed the room, taking her face in his hands. Let me ask you something. Do you love me? The question caught her off guard. That's not the point. It's the only point. Do you love me? Yes, she whispered. But then that's all that matters. The rest is just noise. Would you have the courage to declare your love in front of the entire world? What's the most public gesture of love you've ever witnessed? The press conference was held in the hotel's grand ballroom. Cameras flashed like lightning as they entered hand in hand. Kayla in a simple blue dress, Landon in his most expensive suit. Ladies and gentlemen, Landon began, his voice carrying clearly through the room. I called this conference to address the rumors about my relationship with Kayla Davis. The room held its breath. Yes, we met by accident. Yes, it started as a practical arrangement for mutual benefit. But falling in love with her was the most real thing that's ever happened to me. Kayla felt tears prick her eyes as he continued. The woman beside me is a hero. She saves lives. She works impossible hours for impossible pay because she believes healthcare is a right, not a privilege. She's been terrorized by a man who abused his power, and instead of staying quiet, she's choosing to speak out to protect other women. He turned to look at her, his eyes soft. So yes, our relationship began unconventionally, but I'd do it all again because it brought me the love of my life. The room erupted in questions, but Landon held up his hand. One more thing. Dr. Marcus Webb is currently under investigation by the Georgia Medical Board for insurance fraud, sexual harassment, and falsification of medical records. The evidence will speak for itself. As they left the press conference hand in hand, Kayla felt lighter than she had in years. The truth was out. All of it. Her phone rang with news that changed everything. The hospital board wanted to meet with her immediately, not to fire her, to offer her the position she'd always dreamed of. Share your most romantic moment below. When did someone choose you over everything else? The hospital offered her everything she'd worked for. Chief nursing position, security, respect, but accepting meant leaving behind the man who'd shown her what it felt like to be chosen first. Manhattan General's boardroom felt different this time. Instead of defending herself against false accusations, Kayla sat across from 5 administrators who looked at her with something she'd rarely seen: respect. Ms. Davis, the chief medical officer, began, your handling of the media attention has been impressive. Professional, dignified, honest. Thank you. We've reviewed your entire record, not just here, but from every hospital where you've worked. Your patient outcomes are exceptional. Your colleagues consistently rate you among the best they've worked with. Kayla waited. There was always a but coming. We'd like to offer you the position of Chief Nursing Officer. Full-time, permanent. significant salary increase, comprehensive benefits, and the opportunity to implement the patient advocacy programs you outlined in your interview. The offer hung in the air like a gift she'd never dared to ask for. "The position is based here in New York?" she asked carefully. "Yes. Full relocation package included, of course." "How do you choose between career success and love? Is it possible to have both? What would you sacrifice for the right person?" After the meeting, she walked through Central Park, needing air to think. This was everything she'd wanted: security, respect, the chance to make real changes in patient care, a career instead of just survival. But it also meant staying in New York permanently, committing to a life she'd never planned, in a city that still felt foreign. Her phone buzzed with a text from Landon. How did it go? Instead of texting back, she called him. "They offered me chief nursing officer," she said without preamble. "Kayla, that's incredible. Congratulations. It means staying in New York permanently." The silence on the other end stretched long enough that she wondered if the call had dropped. "What do you want to do?" he asked finally. "I don't know. This morning I was planning to disappear. Now they're offering me everything I've worked for. But it's not just about me anymore, is it? If I take this job, if I stay in New York, what does that mean for us?" Another pause. "It means we stop pretending this is temporary. And if I don't, if I go back to traveling, keep moving, then I'll support whatever decision you make, even if it kills me." The honesty in his voice broke her heart. He was willing to let her go, to choose her dreams over his own happiness. "What if I told you I don't want to choose?" she said suddenly. "What if I want both, the career and the love and the life we're building together? Then I'd tell you that you can have both, that you deserve both, even though we've only known each other for 3 weeks. Even though, especially though, the answer came easier than she'd expected. "I'm going to take the job. Yeah, but not just because of you, because I want to build something lasting, a career, a relationship, a life that isn't about running anymore." "I love you," he said simply. "I love you too, and I'm done being scared of that. Tell me your thoughts on balancing dreams and relationships. How do you make space for both?" The future stretched ahead of them, uncertain but full of possibility. Instead of choosing between her career and her love, she decided to create a third option, one that would revolutionize healthcare and prove that the best partnerships multiply dreams instead of dividing them. 6 months into her role as Chief Nursing Officer at Manhattan General, Kayla stood in the hospital's conference room, presenting something that could change everything. The PowerPoint slide behind her showed patient mortality rates, readmission statistics, and a solution that nobody had seen coming. "Remote patient monitoring through AI-assisted home care," she explained to the hospital board. "We discharge patients earlier, but keep them connected to our medical team through smart devices and real-time data analysis." The board members leaned forward, interested but skeptical. "The technology exists," she continued. "Pierce Technologies has been developing healthcare AI for 3 years. What they're missing is the medical expertise to make it actually work for patients." Dr. Harrison, the hospital's chief administrator, raised his hand. "Are you suggesting a partnership with your boyfriend's company?" "I'm suggesting a partnership with the most advanced healthcare AI company in the country. The fact that I'm dating the CEO is coincidental. Landon had been developing the technology long before they met, but Kayla's insights had transformed it from theoretical software into something that could save lives." Late nights in his apartment had become brainstorming sessions, her medical knowledge filling gaps his programmers couldn't see. "Have you ever found someone who made your dreams bigger instead of smaller? What would you create if you had unlimited support?" The pilot program launched 2 months later. 20 patients with chronic heart conditions, each equipped with monitoring devices that transmitted data directly to Pierce's AI system and Manhattan General's nursing staff. Patient 247's heart rate is elevated. The system alerted Kayla during her morning rounds. She called Mrs. Chun immediately, catching a minor cardiac episode before it became an emergency room visit. "How did you know?" Mrs. Chun asked when Kayla arrived at her apartment 30 minutes later. "We're watching over you," Kayla smiled, adjusting the patient's medication dosage. "Even when you're home." The results were stunning. Emergency readmissions dropped by 60%. Patient satisfaction scores hit record highs. Other hospitals started calling, wanting to know how Manhattan General had achieved the impossible. But success brought its own problems. The FDA wants a full review of the AI system, Landon told her over dinner in his penthouse. Someone filed a complaint claiming our software is practicing medicine without a license. Kayla set down her fork. Who would file that? Someone with connections in the medical establishment. Someone who doesn't want us to succeed. The name hung between them unspoken, but they both knew. Marcus Webb might have been discredited, but he still had allies. People who resented a tech billionaire and a travel nurse changing how healthcare worked. How long until the review? She asked. 6 months, maybe longer. And if they shut us down? Landon reached across the table, taking her hand. Then we start over. Build something better. The prototype glowed on the screen between them later that night. Her medical expertise translated into his technological language, creating something neither could have built alone. When their eyes met across the desk, she saw the future reflected in his gaze. Working together felt natural now. His analytical mind balanced her intuitive understanding of patient care. Her real-world experience grounded his theoretical innovations. What if we're wrong? She asked during one late-night session. What if this doesn't work the way we think it will? Then we'll figure out what does work. Together, share your biggest dream in the comments. What would you build with unlimited support? The call came at midnight, jolting them both from sleep. The hospital's emergency line, never good news. There's been a data breach, the voice said. Someone hacked into the Pierce system. All our patient data is compromised. As they raced to the hospital, Kayla's mind was already working through the implications. Patient privacy violations, federal investigations, the end of everything they'd built. But the worst part wasn't the breach itself. It was the message the hacker had left behind. Some nurses should stick to bedpans. A concerned physician, Marcus. Even from his ruined career, he'd found a way to strike back. The person who'd stolen their life's work wasn't a stranger or competitor. It was someone they trusted, someone who knew exactly how to hurt them where it mattered most. The FBI's cybercrime unit arrived at Manhattan General at dawn, their black SUVs creating a circus in the hospital parking lot. Patients and families gathered at windows, watching federal agents carry computers and servers out of the building like evidence from a crime scene. This is a nightmare, Dr. Harrison muttered, pacing the conference room where Kayla and Landon waited with the hospital's legal team. Agent Rodriguez spread printouts across the table. The breach originated from inside your network. Someone with administrative access uploaded malware specifically designed to target Pierce Technologies' AI system. Inside access? Kayla's stomach dropped. That means someone who works here. Someone with deep knowledge of both your medical protocols and Pierce's software architecture, the agent confirmed. Landon studied the technical reports with the focus that had built his empire. The malware is sophisticated. Military-grade encryption, custom-written for our specific system. This wasn't some random hacker. Do you have any idea who might want to sabotage your project? Kayla and Landon exchanged glances. They had ideas but no proof. The investigation took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of suspended patient monitoring, media scrutiny, and federal agents interviewing every employee who'd had access to the system. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, Agent Rodriguez announced, sliding a photo across the table. Your head of cardiology. She's been in contact with Dr. Marcus Webb for 6 months. Kayla stared at the photo, remembering Dr. Walsh's enthusiasm for the pilot program, her detailed questions about the AI algorithms, her insistence on reviewing every patient file personally. She fed him information about our system, Landon said, pieces clicking together. Technical specifications, patient data, security protocols. What? Kayla asked, though she suspected she already knew. Agent Rodriguez pulled out printed emails. According to these communications, Dr. Webb convinced her that your AI system was dangerous, that it would replace doctors and nurses, eliminate jobs, compromise patient care. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you rebuild after that? What helped you move forward? The arrest happened during morning rounds. Dr. Walsh was in the cardiac unit, reviewing patient charts when federal agents appeared. Her face went white as they read her rights. "I was protecting patients," she said as they led her away in handcuffs. That system was going to kill people. Kayla watched from a nurse's station, feeling sick. Dr. Walsh had been a mentor, someone she'd respected and trusted. The betrayal cut deeper than Marcus's direct attacks. She really believed she was doing the right thing, Kayla told Landon that night. "Fear makes people do terrible things," he replied. "Fear of change, fear of losing control, fear of being replaced." The legal battle stretched for months. Criminal charges against Dr. Walsh and Marcus, civil lawsuits, insurance claims, media coverage that painted their innovation as either revolutionary or dangerous, depending on which channel you watched. But the worst damage was personal. The trust they'd built with their medical colleagues, the relationships that made their partnership possible, all of it was contaminated by suspicion and doubt. "Maybe we should shut it down," Kayla said one evening, staring at another lawsuit notice. "Start over with something simpler. Is that what you want?" She looked at him, seeing her own exhaustion reflected in his eyes. "I want to help people, but I'm tired of fighting everyone who's supposed to be on our side. What helped you move forward after betrayal? Share your experience with overcoming broken trust." The phone rang at midnight with news that would either save them or destroy them completely. When the dust settled and the real enemy was revealed, they discovered that surviving betrayal together had built something stronger than either had dared to hope for: unshakable faith in each other. The call came from Agent Rodriguez, her voice carrying news that changed everything. "We found the real source of the sabotage," she said. Dr. Walsh was a pawn. The person who orchestrated this whole thing has been playing a much longer game. Kayla and Landon sat in their apartment kitchen, the phone on speaker between them, waiting for the revelation they both dreaded and needed. Dr. Richard Carlson, former CEO of MedTech Solutions. His company was developing competing AI healthcare software. When Pierce Technologies started gaining market share, he decided to eliminate the competition. The name meant nothing to Kayla, but Landon's face went hard. Carlson approached Web first. Agent Rodriguez continued. Fed him inside information about Pierce's business deals, encouraged him to target you, Ms. Davis, as a way to destabilize Landon's focus. Marcus was working for someone else? Kayla's voice was barely a whisper. The harassment, the threats, the media campaign, all of it was designed to destroy your relationship and damage Pierce Technologies' reputation. When that didn't work, Carlson recruited Dr. Walsh, convinced her that your AI system was a threat to medical professionals. Landon stood up, pacing to the window. "How long?" 2 years. Since right after your IPO. 2 years. The entire time Kayla had been running for Marcus, thinking she was his only target. A corporate rival had been pulling the strings. "Where's Carlson now?" Landon asked. "Federal custody. We have communications, financial records, the whole conspiracy. He's looking at 20 years minimum." When the FBI agent hung up, Kayla and Landon sat in silence, processing the magnitude of what they'd learned. "All this time," she said finally, "I thought Marcus was obsessed with me personally, but I was just collateral damage in someone else's business war." "Hey," Landon pulled her into his arms. "Look at me. You were never collateral damage. What we built together, what we feel for each other, that's real. That's ours." What's the difference between attraction and partnership? When did you know someone was truly your equal? The vindication felt strange after months of fighting. News outlets that had questioned their motives now praised their innovation. Medical journals that had published critical articles suddenly wanted to feature their success stories. "Funny how the truth changes everything," Kayla observed, reading the latest positive coverage. "Not everything," Landon replied. "The important stuff was always true." The pilot program resumed with overwhelming support from Manhattan General's medical staff. Other hospitals lined up to join the next phase. The technology that had been dismissed as dangerous was now being hailed as revolutionary. But the real victory was smaller, more personal. "I trust you," Kayla told Landon one evening as they worked late on program expansion plans. Completely. After everything we've been through, all the people who try to tear us apart, I trust you more than I've ever trusted anyone. His answer was simple. I trust you too, with everything. Share what real partnership means to you. When did you know someone was your true equal? 6 months later, their lives had settled into something that felt like normal. Work they loved, a relationship that had survived every test, a future full of possibility. But life had one more surprise waiting for them. Just when they thought they'd weathered every storm, life delivered the one challenge that would either break them apart forever or bind them together in ways they'd never dreamed possible. The morning sickness started on a Tuesday. Kayla made it through exactly half of her patient rounds before rushing to the nearest bathroom, barely making it before her stomach emptied completely. She sat on the cold tile floor, head against the wall, trying to convince herself it was just stress or bad cafeteria food. But deep down she knew. The pregnancy test she bought during lunch break confirmed what her body had already been telling her. 2 pink lines, clear as day, announcing a future she hadn't planned for. She stared at the test in the hospital bathroom, mind racing. They'd been careful, mostly careful, but apparently not careful enough. How do you handle life-changing news that terrifies and excites you at the same time? What fears would you need to overcome to build the family you want? That evening, she sat in Landon's apartment kitchen, the test hidden in her purse, trying to find words for something she'd never imagined having to say. "You're quiet tonight," he observed, setting down his coffee cup. "Everything okay?" Define okay. His expression shifted, reading the seriousness in her tone. "Kayla, what's wrong?" She pulled the test from her purse, setting it on the marble counter between them like evidence of a crime they'd accidentally committed. Landon stared at it for a long moment, processing. When he looked up, his face was unreadable. "How do you feel about this?" he asked carefully. "Terrified," she admitted. "You?" "Terrified," he echoed, then quieter and excited. "Is that crazy?" "Completely crazy." They sat in silence, the weight of the moment settling around them. 9 months from now, they'd be responsible for another human being, a tiny person who would depend on them for everything. "I don't know how to be a parent," Kayla said. "I grew up with a single mom who worked 3 jobs. I barely saw her except when she was exhausted." "I don't know how either," Landon replied. "My parents were never around. Boarding school from age 8, then college, then I built my company. I've never even held a baby. We're going to screw this up. Probably. But we'll screw it up together." The simple certainty in his voice made her smile despite her fears. "This changes everything," she said. "Yeah, it does. The company, our work, the foundation we're building. We'll all still be there. But now we're building something else too." She looked at him across the kitchen table, seeing not just her partner, but the father of her child. The thought should have been overwhelming, but instead it felt right. "I'm scared," she admitted, hand resting on her still flat stomach. "What if I don't know how to do this?" He covered her hand with his, voice steady with certainty. "Then we'll figure it out together." Like everything else, the next morning brought news that tested their newfound peace. Kayla's phone rang during breakfast with a call that made her blood run cold. "There's been an accident," the voice said. "Landon's in the hospital. Share your thoughts on taking big leaps together. What fears would you need to overcome?" The crash had happened on his way to a board meeting. A drunk driver running a red light, T-boning Landon's car at full speed. Racing through traffic to the hospital, one thought consumed her. She couldn't lose him now. Not when they were just beginning. 2 years ago, she used the wrong key card and accidentally found her soulmate. Today, she was using the right key to unlock a future neither of them had dared to imagine. The emergency room chaos felt familiar after years of nursing, but being on the other side, waiting, helpless, terrified, was unbearable. Kayla paced the family waiting area, one hand pressed to her stomach where their child was growing, the other clutching her phone. "Family of Landon Pierce?" The doctor's voice cut through her panic. "I'm his," or she struggled with the words. Boyfriend seemed too small. Partner felt incomplete. "I'm Kayla Davis. He's the father of my baby." The words came out naturally, and she realized they contained more truth than any legal document ever could. "He's going to be fine," the doctor said, and Kayla's knees nearly gave out with relief. Concussion, 3 broken ribs, extensive bruising. He was lucky when she finally saw him, propped up in a hospital bed with a bandage across his forehead. Landon's first words were, "Is the baby okay?" "The baby's fine," she assured him, taking his hand carefully. "You scared me to death." Didn't mean to. Don't joke about this." His expression grew serious. "I know. When I saw that car coming, all I could think about was you. About our baby. About everything I'd miss if... But you didn't. You're here. We're all here. Do you believe in meant to be? In happy accidents that change everything? What's the best wrong turn you ever took?" 6 months later, they stood in the nursery of their new apartment. Not Landon's penthouse or Kayla's tiny place, but something they'd chosen together. Something that felt like home. "She's going to be just like her mother," Landon murmured, his hands gentle on Kayla's growing belly as their daughter kicked beneath his palm. "Strong, brilliant, impossible to resist. And stubborn like her father," Kayla added, laughing as another kick made her wince. The walls glowed soft gold in the afternoon light, hand-painted clouds drifting across a sky-blue ceiling. Not expensive designer work, but something they'd done together on weekends, laughing over paint spills and arguing about cloud shapes. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd gotten the right room that night?" she asked, leaning back against his chest. "I don't have to wonder. I know exactly what would have happened." "What?" "We would have found each other anyway. Some things are just meant to be." Standing in their nursery, their home, she marveled at how far they'd traveled from that first awkward morning. The scared travel nurse and the lonely billionaire had become partners, parents, builders of something bigger than either had imagined possible. Their foundation now operated in 12 states, providing AI-assisted healthcare to underserved communities. The technology that had started as a business venture had become their mission. "Ready for this?" Landon asked, as another contraction made Kayla grip his hand. "Are we ever ready for anything?" She laughed through the pain. "We just figure out as we go." Share your story of unexpected blessings in the comments below. What wrong door led you exactly where you needed to be? As they headed to the hospital to meet their daughter, Kayla thought about keys, the wrong one that had started everything, and all the right ones they'd found together since. They'd built an empire together, but their greatest creation was the love that started with a wrong key card and grew into the rightest thing either of them had ever done. So there you have it. Proof that sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most beautiful destinations. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe for more tales of love, second chances, and the courage to trust again. Tell me in the comments, what wrong door in your life led you exactly where you needed to be? And remember, the best love stories don't start with perfect plans. They start with perfect moments. Until next time, keep believing in beautiful accidents.